You know, it comes. See, you found faith, I lost it. We both found our pinkies up.
Common ground.
Wait, the farmer and the cowman should be friends. See, Rogers and Hammerstein. What did I tell you? Right? So everything comes full circle. Back to you, pal.
Yeah, I must find a question.
You were talking about superheroes and Jesus and God and stuff like that. You know?
Some similarities, no?
Oh yeah.
And
what's your point?
No. How religious are superheroes?
I think they're very religious without trying to be religious. I mean, they try to mask it. When people come up with superhero stories, I think it all goes back to either religion or mythology, which is, still the same thing. But you just try to mask it and make it seem not like. But I think if you strip it away and look at what it really is, that's what it is.
So that's superheroes very much. You're a great fan. You're a great
I like
of Batman.
I love Batman. Batman's my favorite character, comic book character, any kind of character. But I love comics. I don't love like one particular genre of comics. It would be weird if people went to the movies and said, I only go to romance movies. And I never see any other kind of movie but romance movies. And that's what drives me crazy about comic book fans, because I'll say, oh, do you read my comics? Or no, I only read superhero comics. I don't read humor. Well, people go to funny movies all the time. They'll go to a comedy one week, and they'll go to an action adventure the next week. And that's how I view comics. It's all, it's all the same thing. It's all just, it's a great art form.
But most comic book fans relate to comics the way most people who are drug addicts relate to their drugs. They have very, very specific ideas. It's not, there isn't a generalized idea. I mean, you and I share very similar themes in this idea. That I like the form, the content doesn't interest me.
Right.
It's all about the execution of the form. For example, one of my favorite books for the longest time was 100 Bullets by Brian Azzarello and Eduardo Riso. And it's a book, when I first saw it, I dismissed it because it looked ridiculous. It wasn't my cup of tea. When I finally actually read the book, I realized this was a fantastic comic book. And it wasn't about anything that I cared about. I mean, I don't care about, in its inception, it was about Latino culture. I didn't care about that. I mean, I'm a Jew. I don't care about that. And there were well-executed superhero comic books. There were well-executed humor comic books. But most comic book fans are stuck with the idea that this is what they like. But they're identifying with the brand as opposed to the form.
Yeah.
And I think that, you say that they reflect myth. I think they frequently reflect a way of creating better angels, and that allow us to be shitheels, but we've got heroes doing our good works. When I was working in Hollywood, my first job was I wrote a movie, which was written by so many other people. It's now, and there are 15 different versions of this movie. And it was a scholarship to film writing school. And the notes I got from both the producers, who are both major gunners, was, can't the heroes be more altruistic? And that seems to me what a great deal of what hero stories are about. It's stories we tell each other, which make us look better than we are by our representations of ourselves as character heroes. They are idealized versions, not even necessarily physically, but morally and ethically. I mean, I know a lot of liars, cheats, and thieves who write and draw astonishingly good characters. Kind of like the Vatican. I've always believed, for example, getting back to religion briefly, that religion was created to keep us in line, to keep us under control, with the promise of something better in heaven. I want it now. Okay? Because I believe in the dirt nap. I don't believe that my soul is going to transcend and move on. I think I'm going to go down and keep going, to worm food. So that I'm 60 years old, and yes, I look really good. But I'm rotting inside, and we're like all of us, at different paces and times. And I want what I want now. And one of the reasons that I do the kind of comics that I do is that my characters frequently don't behave really nicely. Because I kind of like the idea of doing characters who achieve good goals by not necessarily good means. Because there are a lot of guys who can bullshit you and tell you that even though they're liars, cheats, and thieves, their heroes are good. My heroes aren't so good. They're selfish, venal, petty, occasionally small-minded, just like me, and just like you. And some of that makes some of you uncomfortable, because you'd rather read about characters who are better than you, so you can tell yourself that you're like those characters as opposed to the ones who are petty, venal, small-minded, and chicken shit. Your call. You follow? It means that I can do more complicated work and take the heat, because I don't care whether you like it or not. Buy it, don't. I can live with it. Because I learned not to take your praise any more seriously than I take the blame. It just is. Anybody can do. I mean, I like drawing Batman a lot. I really do. Writing Batman can be difficult. Because if you look at Batman, Batman is about a guy who justifies beating the shit out of people he doesn't know because he had a bad day when he was 11. Okay? I had a lot of bad days when I was 11. See earlier remark about beating the shit out of people I don't know. He can also identify evil by the way it looks. Like Jews in Germany. Okay? So, I have a certain detachment from how superheroes know who's good and who's not. When I do Batman, I always remind Batman that what he's doing is just as illegal as the Joker. But he does it anyway. Because that's what he'd rather spend his money. Rather than eliminating poverty, tearing down the ghettos and building up new homes, instead he spends his millions on really cool guns, and really cool cars, and really cool airplanes, and really cool suits, so he can beat the shit out of people he doesn't know. It's his money. It's his, yeah. Talk to Brian Baum. Thank you very much, Brian. It's his money, he can do whatever he wants. But don't make it sound like he's doing the right thing. He's doing it because he wants to. Okay? And I'll still draw Batman anytime I get a chance, because it's a really cool character to draw. But he also lives a life of utter and complete self-justification. Superman, on the other hand, is this really cool alien who pretends to be a dweeb. Rather than his real superego and id would tell him to do, which is to say, fuck me, I'm God. Which is what all of us would do. I've never been so insulted. So when you talk about superheroes as God, think about it from that perspective.
It was so interesting what you would tell about Superman and about Batman, but Green Lantern, I never really knew who he is. I never.
Paul Newman.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was originally. That's who Gil Kane based him on.
Huh?
Yeah,
of course. It's good. But in the Times, they actually made an allusion to that.
Recently?
New York Times movie.
Oh, cool.
Somebody out there here. Manola Dargis.
He's not such a simple character as Superman or Batman, no?
Say again?
Green Lantern is not such a simple character as Superman or Batman.
He's Aladdin. With the magic lamp. Seriously, that's Green Lantern.
That's all.
Isn't it?
He's a cop with a magic lamp.
I never thought of him as a cop. I thought of him as a guy who, you know, Hal Jordan, I loved Green Lantern when I was a kid. There's some really good noises going on. I'm enjoying this event. I love Green Lantern when I was a kid. Much more than the Flash.
I think he became a cop when they developed that Green Lantern Corps, though, because he was just one of many guys who were out there policing the universe.
See, for me, Gil Kane, I mean, in the same way that I stopped reading Spider-Man when Steve Ditko stopped drawing it. What? You happy now? You get time?
Yes.
I stopped reading Spider-Man when Steve Ditko stopped drawing it, because it stopped being Spider-Man. And I stopped reading Green Lantern after Gil Kane stopped drawing it, because that wasn't Green Lantern. I mean, Carmine Infantino was the Flash. Joe Kubert was Hawkman, you know? And Gil's Green Lantern was this, I mean, his flying figures, just they were Mac Rayboy and Lou Fine. There was this balletic quality about them that just nobody else had. I mean, all of Superman flew like he was lying on a refrigerator. when Gil drew Green Lantern flying, there was this absolute smooth. It was beautiful. And Stan, I believe, I've heard this from more than one person, Stan always believed that Gil's work was very effeminate.
Stan Lee?
Yeah. I'm told this. I don't know this for a fact, but I've heard this.
I think compared to the Marvel style of Jack Kirby, that he probably thought Steve Ditko's was the same way.
But Ditko was so weird and creepy.
Yeah, but I think, you know, Stan preferred this to this.
But also Ditko. I mean, Ditko's entire style comes out of about 6 months of Kubert's in the early 50s. If you want to see where Ditko got it all, it's Joe Kubert's Sinbad from 1951 and 52. Ditko built an entire style on this particular part of Kubert's career. And Kubert is brilliant. Amazing.
You already had seen the Grüne Laterne movie?
No.
No?
I'll see it.
You will see it?
Yeah, I guess.
Is that good that so many superheroes comes to the movies, or do they belong to the comic books? What do you think?
I think it's really cool that so many of the movies that are really popular now, people are starting to realize these were created by Jewish teenagers. I mean, you know, when you look at the X-Men, the Hulk, Fantastic Four, Spider-Man, Captain America, Green Lantern, you know, the list goes on and on. I don't think I could name one that wasn't created by Jews. And I love that. I love that part of it. I don't love the idea that the movies are the ultimate form of these characters. Like as if they weren't really legitimate until we made a feature film based on them.
But I think that's the nature of the culture in which we live.
Yeah, but I think people ought to go read Gil Kane and John Bruton's Green Lantern, and then if you get around to it, go see the movie.
I wear these movies when I was 15. You know, I woke up and I would think I would sit in high school, being the geek that I was, and know that I knew, and they didn't know the secret knowledge of how good this work was. And defending it only made it worse. And then when these movies started coming along, people used to beat me up on making those movies.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and they're loving those movies. You know, my wife and I live in a small town, and it's a really small town. And for the months before Iron Man came out, we kept hearing about this wonderful movie, Iron Man. These people had no idea who Iron Man was. They had never heard of the character. And I didn't. Fuck, I know Iron Man. It's one of my 3 favorite Marvel characters. You know, it's Iron Man, Captain America, and Damage Control. I love Damage Control. I think it's the greatest idea ever. It's never been explored. I think it's swell.
Yeah.
And all these people, you know, Iron Man, I'm the true. And I saw the movie. It was fucking great. I loved the movie. And when I try to explain to them how it's exactly like the comic book, I mean, it's a really good comic book adaptation, they couldn't give a shit. They didn't care, because the movie exists for them unto itself. So when you talk about Green Lantern, none of that filters down to us. None of it trickles down to me. You know? And if a movie fails, that does trickle down. Because it means we're fucked. And not in a good way. You know, what it means is that if it succeeds, we don't succeed. If it fails, we fail. Because if it fails, it's because it was a comic book. If it succeeds, it was because it was a good movie. See that?
Yeah.
That's how it works. So we're screwed. And again, not in a good way. There are good ways, but not this beautiful way. So
I still can't wait to see Captain America.
And I can't wait to see John Carter of Mars. I am such a fucking fan fag. It's unbelievable. Captain America, the trailer is fucking great. I mean, it really does. Look at this, we're 2 grown men. I read A Fighting Man of Mars when I was 13 years old, the day before my bar mitzvah, October the 25th, 1963, and it changed my life. I was talking about this with Brian earlier. It's true. I have been waiting for this movie for 47 fucking years. You think I'm joking? I'm deadly serious. I'm counting down. March 9th, 2012. I will be at the theater, first show, opening day. I will see it. I am so, it can suck. I won't care. Because just like those guys who don't care if it's bad, fuck, it's Wolverine. For me, it's John Carter. John Carter of Mars. I've been waiting for this movie since I'm 13 years old. Captain America, I like that Chris Evans.
That's me with Captain America.
Yeah.
I can't wait.
Has the trailer for Captain America been here yet? Or as it's called in Europe, the first Avenger?
Yeah.
Captain America.
Get it?
The first Avenger.